Welcome back to another episode of What I Watched This Month. Today I'm going to be going over what I watched in June. We're going to hop into it. There's a lot of stuff this month, so first thing I watched here was First Reformed. I gave this 4.5 stars. Really enjoyed this. I did rewatch it later on in the month as well, which I'll talk about it a little bit more then. But yeah, I mean, you got Ethan Hawke. This was directed by Paul Schrader, who is the same guy who wrote films like Taxi Driver and Raging Bull. I don't know, there's something about this film that speaks to, I don't want to say my experience growing up directly, because obviously I didn't grow up like being a priest or anything. You know, just with my religious background growing up, a lot of this film hits home for me. Love how this film looks. It's got a very dreary and bleak look to it. There's a great scene that's pivotal to the entire film towards the beginning of the film, between Ethan Hawke's character and Michael, who's like the main, really probably the most important character in this film. And that debate, that moral and ethical kind of discussion that they have between those two people is really the central point of this film, and really just covers everything that it's trying to get at. I don't want to go too far into spoilers, but you know, there is some questioning of Ethan Hawke's character. He questions his faith, and he does some pretty drastic stuff towards the end of this film. It ends in a really, I wouldn't say unsatisfying, but a really surprising and unpredictable way. But on a rewatch, which I'll talk about a little bit later, it kind of made itself clear to me why it ends the way that it does. But yeah, I just really loved this. I think I'm gonna continue to watch this because it's just so, it's heavy, obviously, but it has a lot to say about like faith and questioning faith. Next thing I watched here was The Autopsy of Jane Doe, directed by a guy who directed another horror movie that came out this year, Passengers, I think it's called, which I didn't hear very good things about. But yeah, I checked this out. It's got Brian Cox in it, which is kind of cool, from Succession, obviously. Yeah, I mean, the setup for this film is really interesting. Like, the concept and the idea is there. It's really engaging for like the first half of this film. It does fall into some very like tropey, cliche stuff towards the end, which I think really was not enjoyable for me. But kind of a unique concept here, of a girl that is brought, who they think is dead. She's brought into this crematorium or whatever it is, this, you know, and they start doing all their stuff on her. They start trying to, you know, identify a cause of death. It turns out that turns out she's a witch. And she obviously starts, you know, trying to kill these guys. And, yeah, I don't know. Again, the setup is cool. I like the mystery in the first half of this. I think that's where this is the strongest. But again, it gets really tropey and kind of cliche towards the back half. Next thing I watched here was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, this is the 2003 version. This is the remake, not the original version from the 70s, I think the original is. And to be honest, I enjoy the original. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but this kind of loses most of the magic. I'll say most because there are a few positives about this film, but it really does lose most of the magic of that film. It's just so, I feel like it completely misses the mark, and it completely misses what that original film did so well. It's not nearly as gritty or downright disturbing as that original film. And also, the characters are miles worse here. The writing is miles worse. You know, if you've seen the original, there's really not much here that's going to excite you, because you kind of know exactly what's going to happen. There are a few kind of set pieces towards the end of the film that are different, but overall it's just very similar. Next thing I watched here was When Harry Met Sally. I really loved this. I've always heard good things about this. But yeah, this is kind of just like a rom-com from 1989, as you can see. But it's just done so well. I mean, the chemistry between our two main characters here is just, you buy every second of it. The writing is quick and witty. It's mature. It sure at times falls into some typical rom-com tropes. But it really does have a lot to say about like how, you know, love maybe won't find you until you're ready for it. You know, like these two people have continuous contact throughout their lives, but it's really only until they're, you know, fully ready for it that they take action on it. It's shot amazingly as well. I mean, the editing is fantastic. It's just solid. Next thing I watched here was Dead Poet Society. I gave this 3.5 stars. I wanted to enjoy this more than I did. There's certainly aspects of this that are great. I think the whole idea of what the professor is kind of teaching, or his philosophy in this film, is something that I resonate with in terms of, art and embracing it and making it a part of your life and not just writing it off as something that's unimportant. It gets really overly sentimental towards the end, where you're like, I know what you're going for, I get it, you kind of have to do this, but I don't know, I feel like there could have been something a little bit more nuanced or a little bit more interesting towards the end. All right, next thing I watched here was Killer of Sheep. This came out in 1978, directed by Charles Burnett, I believe his name is. Yes, that's correct. Okay. Now, I am clearly not educated enough or smart enough to talk about this film in a deep way. Obviously, this film is like a point in time and a perspective of somebody's life that I cannot... Well, I can relate to it in certain aspects, but I can't fully understand or empathize with it in a true way, because it's just so far removed from my own life. It's about, black people growing up in California in the 70s, of course, and the economic struggles that these characters are facing, again, is so removed from me. But there is a real human feel and heart to this film that, despite those differences from my own life, I can really connect to. There's a consistent visual trick of, it kind of ties into the Killer of Sheep, that is our main character's job. There's a visual trick that they consistently use where they cut to shots of these sheep, and it doesn't necessarily tie into the story around it, but it just speaks to this character's need to take control of something, because if you're in such a difficult situation, trying to take control of at least something, well, obviously this is just a job for him and he needs to make money. He's maybe not thinking of it in that way, but subconsciously it's working at a slaughterhouse is inherently wanting to take control of another animal. So I think that's very interesting, kind of the central part of this film. I love the way they depict children in this film as well. That sounds kind of strange with no context, but just the way they shoot kids, these kids that are just obviously they're just kind of hanging around, you don't know where their parents are, they're just hanging around the city, these kind of it's just shot in such a naturalistic and realistic way that I think is just so effective. I don't know, my thoughts on this are very scattered, and again, I feel like I would need to watch it again, but I do love it for what it was. Next thing I watched here was The Departed, directed by Martin Scorsese. You got Leo, you got Matt Damon, you got Jack Nicholson. It's definitely weaker than some of his other gangster films, but still, it's still great. It's still, the writing is fantastic. I was just so engrossed in the twists and turns of this story, and waiting to figure out if this character was going to get caught as a spy, or this character was going to find some piece of information that helps this character. It's kind of hard to talk about this in a non-spoilery way, but the story itself is fantastic. It looks rather bland compared to some of Scorsese's best films, in my opinion, and I think that's my main issue with it, is it just kind of looks it doesn't really stand out to me in that department. So kind of covers a lot of similar themes that a lot of his films do, but kind of just in a more commercial and accessible way, I would say. But yeah, still pretty great. Next thing I watched here was The Blair Witch Project. I loved this more than I expected to. This feels like such a pivotal moment in terms of horror, in terms of maybe it didn't start the found footage style, but it really popularized it, and kind of took it to the next level. So this is about a group of people wanting to make a documentary on the Blair Witch, the Blair Witch. So yeah, they go out into these communities and they ask people about the Blair Witch. Eventually they go out into the woods. They end up getting lost in the woods, of course, and crazy stuff ensues. They end up being hunted by this witch. You never really see the witch, which I think is actually really effective in making this feel realistic. Whether that's an intentional choice in terms of wanting to do that, or maybe it was a restraint in terms of they couldn't afford to have a witch that they were happy with and how it looked. But I think it works in terms of making this feel really realistic. Like, if you don't see the witch, it just makes that mystery so much more interesting. Obviously, you hear it at times, you see the characters' reactions, but when they're running away from the witch, for example, they're not going to stop and pause to get a shot of the witch. They're just, worried about surviving. I see some people saying that these characters are annoying, which really confuses me. I mean, these characters' reactions are exactly what you would expect to a situation like this. I really don't understand. I don't know, sure, they scream a lot, but, like, isn't that kind of the point? Wouldn't you be terrified as well? I don't know. I find the group dynamics here to be really, really engaging and interesting. I love the chemistry and the humor and the bickering and the banter between these three people. It's just, and then the end of this film is some of the scariest shit I've ever seen. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, the last 10 minutes when they go into the, what we assume is where the witch is living, the witch house, it's just like edge of your seat. It's so tense. It's insane. And again, you don't even see anything until, like, the last shot. But even then, you don't see the witch. You just see something kind of unsettling. You don't even see anything, but it's just the environment, the dinginess of the house that they're in, the sounds, the just reactions of the characters. The acting in this is phenomenal. It's really, really good. So yeah, I really enjoyed this a lot more than I expected to. Next thing I watched here was 1 Hour Photo. This came out in 2002. Starring Robin Williams. This is about a guy that works at a print developing shop or whatever, photo developing shop. He ends up getting invested in the people's lives that he gets the photos from. He's kind of this creepy guy. He's got all these people's photos up in his apartment. He's specifically focused in and obsessed with this one family. And he eventually he finds out about the dad of this family is having an affair with someone, so he makes it his mission to get this affair on camera, to get a photo of it, and we assume show it to the wife, who he seems to be interested in hopes to maybe replace the husband, or honestly, in my opinion, what I think is a more interesting conclusion to take from this is that he just kind of sees it as his duty in a really, like, strange and removed way. He almost, like, doesn't have authority over his own life. He just kind of, like, it's really, really strange. He's a very, very compelling and interesting character, but that's kind of where my positives end for this film. I think everything around it is kind of, I don't know, like, the direction it takes is so predictable and uninteresting and bland, in my opinion. I think for such an interesting character, there could have been so many more interesting choices, in terms of the direction, in terms of the cinematography, in terms of the editing. It's just not. It's just a very, very straightforward film. But again, I really do like the central character here. So if you're looking for, like, an interesting depiction of a sociopath, of someone who's very detached from their own life and just does some weird shit, maybe go check this out. All right, next thing I watched here was Pulse. I'm going to speed up these next couple here because this video is going to take way too long. This came out in 2001, horror movie directed by Kurosawa. I do need to check out The Cure eventually, which is also directed by him. Yeah, very eerie, very creepy, very unsettling film with some genuinely beautiful ideas and themes at the heart of it, existential themes that I think separate this from your traditional horror movie. It's got a very brooding and slow energy to it that I find to be just absolutely captivating. The cinematography is stunning throughout this entire film. Has a lot to say about the internet, which is interesting. This is kind of right when, that was happening. It kind of uses the internet as to facilitate these spirits and these ghosts that are kind of seeping into the real world. Just some really, like, striking visual techniques to get these points across as well that I think are really effective. Specifically the black stain that these people leave on walls is really striking and just a really interesting way of depicting that. And next up, I rewatched 2001 Space Odyssey. I gave this 4 stars the first time I saw it, bumped it up half a star this time. Really enjoyed it once again. Very slow film, which I think is not a very interesting thing to say, but I don't know. It's just, I watched this with my family and they weren't a fan of it. I'm gonna be honest. They were like, this is just the slowest thing I've ever seen in my life, which it is, but it's also kind of the point. It's also the point. Just very meticulous and patient and just so detailed. I think the stuff with man, the opening of this film is just, it struck me in a way that it maybe didn't on a first watch. It's just unbelievable. The evolution sequence, a very untraditional and structure to this film, which I think is really interesting as well. And yeah, just some of the best cinematography that you'll ever see. And the ending is one that I'll never forget as well. So I won't go too far into it because this is a rewatch, but yeah, really loved it. All right, next up I watched Jennifer's Body. This is a film that I've seen a lot. It's kind of got like a cult following to it. Starring Megan Fox, Amanda Seyfried. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a high school teen drama, but make it horror, you know? It's kind of purposefully campy and corny and cheesy at times. And I think it actually is really effective in what it's trying to do. It's just a good time. It's a grand old time, in my opinion. The humor is just so like on the nose and a little bit like roll your eyes at points. I was just like, ugh, this is kind of stupid at points, but for the most part, it's like trying to be corny and over the top and stupid, and I think it succeeds. It's a little bit satirical in that way. The whole bit where like the band is trying to, you know, sacrifice this girl to the devil and to gain popularity and to become like this famous band, and they like play the most generic indie music possible is just so funny. All right, next I watched the original Toy Story. Obviously I've seen this when I was a kid, but I haven't watched it as an adult. It's been so long since I've seen it, so I decided to give it a proper watch to see what it was like and see what I thought of it, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, this past weekend I was at my sister's house, and and my nephew is obsessed with Toy Story right now. He's 3, so we watched 2 and we watched 3. You're not going to see those in this video because I want to give it like a proper watch on my own. But yeah, I really enjoyed this first one. Just such a wholesome and heartwarming story at points, but the humor also is like great. Like obviously it's a kids movie, but like the humor for adults is fantastic, which I think is something that like is not as common nowadays with kids movies. Like it's sometimes the humor is just like awful and it's just clearly only made for kids, but there's so many jokes here that are like clearly only an adult would like get. And it's just really good. All the voice actors are fantastic. I mean, they really nailed the tone of this, and they really it feels like they nailed what they were going for. I don't know, there's something charming about the technical limitations of the time as well. Like, obviously, technically, this doesn't look as good as Toy Story 3, or I haven't seen 4 or 5, but I'm assuming 4 and 5 as well. But there's something kind of charming about it. There's the limitation almost helps in depicting, like, these plastic toys that are just like, again, they're not supposed to look lifelike. They're supposed to look like these plastic toys. I will maybe give 2 and 3 like a proper watch on my own, and you might see those in next month's video. But I did enjoy those as well. I think 3 is probably my favorite. I think it just really wrapped up this trilogy. And it should have been a trilogy. I don't know why they made a 4 and a 5. But I think it wrapped up the first 3 in a really satisfying way. But again, I'll talk about those maybe later next month. Next up, I watched The Favorite, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. Came out in 2018. Really enjoyed this. This is probably on par with Poor Things for me in terms of my favorite from Yorgos. Just so good. I mean, the cinematography here is stunning. Like the wide, expansive, like almost fisheye looking shots at points is just so interesting. The way they capture these like elegant, grand spaces is so unique. I really love the dynamic of these 3 characters here that you see in the poster. Obviously, there's the maid that is kind of on the come up in this film, and she's trying to earn the trust and the respect of the queen. And then you have the Churchill, I think is her last name, who was originally the queen's like assistant or whatever. First, what is it called? I don't know. So that relationship is being threatened. There's a lot of like mind games being played between the queen and these two other characters. Olivia Colman is excellent in this film. One of my favorite performances I've seen recently, period. Like, she is so unbelievably good in this. There's like a dark, deep sadness to her character that I think is present throughout the entire film. But she plays it in such nuanced and interesting ways. It's this just so good. I think the end of this film is perfect. The final shot just says everything you need to know about these characters and the dynamic between all. Well, I guess it just has two of them in the last shot, but it just says everything it needs to, and it's so damn good, man. Next thing I watched here was Before Sunrise, directed by Richard Linklater. I've seen a lot of hype about this film, and I wanted to enjoy it more than I did. It's like a capital R romance film, but I think it's overly... I don't know, the writing at points, I feel like it thinks it's saying something really profound and smart, but it's just like, it leaves me feeling a little bit empty. It's like, really, what are we trying to get at here? The characters often are a little bit like, almost don't feel like real people, in my opinion, and what they're saying. They just feel like, what they're saying is so like over the top and like overly sentimental and dramatic to the point where I'm like, I just don't fully buy that these are real people having a real connection at points, but then at other points, like, it really does work for me. This film looks great. Like, technically all the elements are there. It's just, again, the writing at points is a little bit like over dramatic in my opinion, and like, just again, overly romantic. It's just a bit too like sentimental for me, in my opinion. But again, maybe I'm just too cynical. I don't know. I will definitely check out the Before Sunset, which I think is the one after. But yeah, I definitely wanted to enjoy this more than I did. Again, technically it's great. The performances here I think are great. I just think some of the writing and the dialogue here didn't fully work for me. All right, next up I watched Hokum. This is a horror movie that came out this year starring Adam Scott. It's about a writer that stays in a hotel that his parents stayed in before who died in it again? I guess both of them. Both of them die eventually. But so he's staying there as kind of a tribute to them. Some creepy, crazy stuff starts happening in this hotel. There's a witch apparently in this hotel. There's some sadistic stuff going on with the owners of the hotel. I think the mystery here is really the strongest aspect of this film. Like I would say like the second act, like the middle portion of this film is really, really the strong point, especially when Adam Scott's character gets, spoilers, locked in one of these rooms, the honeymoon suite upstairs. The mystery and the puzzle that he has to kind of solve is just really, really interesting. Some genuinely terrifying stuff with the witch, like the character design is really great in my opinion. I think, again, that second act is so good. The first act, I don't know, there's parts of it that I just don't really love, and then the ending I don't love either, but overall, kind of one of the more interesting horror releases this year, and definitely something that I think is worth a watch. Next up, I watched I Love Boosters, and I gotta say, I love this film, man. I love this film, and I love Boosters too, I guess. This is directed by Boots Riley, same guy that did Sorry to Bother You, and I enjoyed this a lot more than that one, to be honest. This is kind of like a Looney Tunes-esque, goofy, twist and turn of a story. Super colorful, as you can tell from the cover. The comedy is there. The social commentary is there as well. Just so much tomfoolery. It gets so insane with every twist and turn that this film takes. It ups the ante like every 5 minutes. It's just crazy. Some really creative directorial choices and editing choices, and like visual effects as well, which is really interesting. Also, the sound of this movie is incredible. Like the hey, oh, hi, hey, hey, oh, hi, or whatever it is. That like continuous music that they have going on whenever there's like something whenever there's some trickery going on. It's just so good. It just, I don't know, there's something about it that just filled my soul with just so much fun. It was just so much fun, man. It was so good, so colorful. The again, the music is fantastic. That Hey Ho Hi, whatever that was, but also like some atmospheric, ethereal music that comes in whenever Lakeith Stanfield's character's on screen. Whenever, you know, Keke Palmer's character is looking into his eyes. That is great. I mean, it just, the music is excellent. Again, so many creative choices going on, and it has a lot to say politically and as well, which I think is really interesting. And it's sure, it hits you over the head with that message, but I think it's just such a agreeable message and such a, like, unanimous message that everyone, you know, would be in favor of in terms of workers' rights, that, like, I can't really complain that it's so heavy-handed in delivering that. Just so good, so much fun. Loved pretty much every little bit of it. So next up, I rewatched First Reformed. I bumped it up half a star to 5 stars. I'm absolutely in love with this film. Specifically on a rewatch, it was really made clear to me how important the journal entries are and the voiceovers of the journal entries. The way this film is written is so masterful. It's crazy. It creates such excellent padding to the film, it helps with the pacing as well. The pacing of this is unbelievable. It's so patient and it's so deliberate. Each line feels so purposeful. It feels like there's no wasted space. Again, that scene between Ethan Hawke's character and Michael is just so profound. It's insane. Like, it's just like the whole thing that he talks about, like the blackness. It's been there forever. Sure, the new technological innovations have brought us to a point where, like, the state of the earth is at risk environmentally, but the despair, as he puts it, it's always been there. Oh, it's just so fucking good, man. Maybe I'll do a whole separate video on it, because I really want to dive into every little bit of this film. All right, next up, I watched the new Fantastic Four movie, First Steps. Came out last year. It's fine, I guess. I don't know, man. I guess, like, the biggest thing I can give this is that, like, some of the writing and some of the interactions between these characters it's definitely got, like, this Disney-esque humor to it, this Marvel-esque humor that is just so tired at this point. It's kind of that, like, overly cheesy, overdone humor at points, but then there's also some humor that I think is genuinely great between these characters, and some chemistry between them that I think is great. Looks pretty solid for, like, a movie like this, but it just is so formulaic. You know every step that this film is going to take. The back half is just so mind-numbingly boring, in my opinion. It also feels like it was cut a little bit short. I don't know, specifically the final sequence just feels so rushed in a surprising way. I usually, like, with these films, that final sequence feels like it's drawn out too much, but this one feels like it just finishes really abruptly and is kind of rushed in a way, which I think is kind of disappointing. I don't really care for it. It's whatever. It's like the definition of mid, you know, the definition of just whatever, you know. All right, and the last thing I watched here was Birdman. This came out in 2014. This is the story of a Hollywood actor, or a famous actor who, you know, once was famous for his role as Birdman, as this, like, superhero. He is kind of washed up at this point in his career, where we find him in this film, and he's I think he's I don't know if he's directing, but actually no, I think he's just starring in this play that people have described as, like, maybe overly pretentious or trying to be overly profound compared to, you know, the kind of superhero stuff that he's done earlier that would kind of appeal to the masses, you know? So it has a lot to say about an actor's process, an actor's career, an actor's own doubts and insecurities. There's certainly a gimmick of this movie in the sense that, like, pretty much the entire thing is trying to be like a oneer, you know, which is such an overdone thing at this point. But I think it was a little bit more novel at this point in time in 2014. Obviously, it's not like a real oneer. There are cuts going on that you can clearly see when they, like, pan against a wall or something. There's obviously a cut there. It's more effective here in the sense that this film is trying to kind of be the cinematic equivalent of a play, right? With a play, you don't have any cuts. It's continual. It's all one take. The kind of, like, one interesting thing is the jazz instrumentation in the score here. Whenever there's like a section where a character's just walking through hallways or walking through space, something that would traditionally be cut in a normal movie is kept in here, and again the jazz backing soundtrack that they use kind of feels like, you know how they when they in a play, when they, you know, they're rearranging the set, they're taking stuff away, they have like, oftentimes they'll have like an orchestra be playing something, or there will be music playing to kind of fill that space. So I thought that was an interesting technique as well. Edward Norton here is fantastic. I wish we got a little bit more of his character, to be honest, but really Michael Keaton's character is the center of everything here. I think, again, the way that he grapples with his own identity and how he has this sonic and at times physical manifestation of his old self as Birdman, the way that they do that visually and sonically is really interesting. And with the cinematography, with it all being one take, a lot of these shots are very like claustrophobic but wide at the same time, which I think is really interesting. There's like, obviously they use a lot of wide lenses, so when you are following Michael Keaton's character, even if you're close to him and he's like taking up a lot of the screen, you can still see a lot of the environment around him, which I think is really interesting. It really lets like the spaces breathe and makes it feel real, especially in that sequence where he's like walking through Times Square in his underwear, which was partly real. A lot of those people were real people. Obviously they planted extras and stuff, but a lot of those reactions were real, which is really effective and cool in my opinion. So yeah, I think the cinematography does a great job of facilitating this story in an effective but also a unique way. I don't think what this film is saying or the themes here are anything that new or anything that groundbreaking, but I just think technically speaking, the filmmaking on display here is pretty great. There you go, that's what I watched this month. This was definitely longer than I wanted it to be, but hopefully you guys enjoyed. Make sure to go follow the Letterboxd down below, and yeah, I'll see you guys in next month's video. Peace out.